You know what? By Enneagrammer, I believe that I'm a 479 tritype. Let me explain why. You know, I don't want to be like anybody else. I try to individuate myself. You know, I don't like people comparing their own lives to my own and their own suffering to my own. You know, I have the low side of 1 and 2. You know, Kara's here to help you. Other behaviors I don't really want to get into. Now, for the 7 fix, you know, I'm horrified of growing up. And the 7 fix fuels a 4 core thing with, you know, feeling envious and grief that I did not matter in my childhood, that I can't have what others have, then they have, you know, like my suffering, you know, like trying to avoid, you know, feeling that worthlessness and grief and making me feel more defective. It's like the 7 fix is serving that. You know, and not my type, you know, 5 fix is fine for me. But actually, I really believe that a 7 fix makes a lot of sense for myself. And even with what I want, you know, in psychotherapy, you know, like play therapy, you know, that's pretty 7 fix-ish, you know, like wanting what I was unable to have, you know, avoiding that, you know, grief, but it's still rooted in a 4 core thing with, you know, wanting to be given what I was ungiven out of feelings of worthlessness and inferiority, and with envy, you know, seeing children hugged by their parents makes me suicidal and feel grief. It's not that I want those children to be treated poor. It's that it just makes me feel a lot of grief and frustration that I could never have that. Like, why could I never have that? You know, and that's why I do not want to have my own child. It would torture me and make me feel worthless. Like, I have to give to this child when I was never cared about, my needs were never mattering. You know, I have to sacrifice myself. No, I'm not going to do it. And even if I wanted to have a child, I cannot because of my Ehlers-Danlos. And with autism executive dysfunction, it's a bad idea. So I will not be a mom. You know, I don't really want to reproduce my genes in the world anyhow. But you know, like, I really believe that in a lot of schools, I am an Enneagram 7 fix. You know, I believe that I fit a 479 chart type. Double frustration fits. You know, triple withdrawal can fit in some aspects, like me having like wanted to isolate myself from humanity over the world being mundane and not caring or valuing me, and wanting to go to a monastery and just write poems all day. You know, I could see that there, and my game design vision is also very 459-ish, but in a lot of schools, I believe the 7 fix is there. Even, you know, with why I do not want psychotherapy, like traditional psychotherapy, it has to do with 4 and 7 related things. You know, I don't want to be functional, which is the antithesis of a superego type, until my own suffering matters and I am cared for. You know, that is why I am not a 6 core. Like, no 6 core would have that. You know, 6 at a low side of 3, they become very functional and productive. You know, they would be fine with psychotherapy unless they thought therapists were out to get them or whatever, which is not my case. I do not believe therapists are out to get me. You know, I'm frustrated that my own needs are not going to matter and they're making me functional without ever having tended to my own childhood unmet needs first, and me getting to be that child, express to them, and they validate and acknowledge it and comfort me amid my grief. So I do believe that 479 chart type fits me quite well in a lot of schools.